Another day, another story. This video is republished from the conversation under a Creative Commons license. Nature is filled with a variety of bizarre and fascinating creatures, each uniquely adapted to its environment. Some of these include the axolotl, known for its regenerative abilities, the narwhal with its unicorn-like tusk, the blobfish, which appears gelatinous out of water, the microscopic, resilient tardigrades, the matamata turtle, a master of camouflage. The deep-sea goblin shark, the bioluminescent vampire squid, the critically endangered saiga antelope with its distinctive nose, and the pangolin, the only mammal fully covered in protective scales. These extraordinary species illustrate the diversity and inventiveness of evolutionary adaptations across the globe. Welcome to Tabo Eminent Channel. It's the question that baffled scientists for hundreds of years: where on earth do eels come from? Aristotle's best guess was that they spontaneously generated. Danish biologist Johannes Schmidt was pretty sure they spawned in the Sargasso Sea, right near the Bermuda Triangle, for a little extra mystery. His extensive biological surveys over 100 years ago found lots of young eels in this area, leading him to conclude they must hatch somewhere nearby. But eggs or adult eels breeding were never seen anywhere nearby. So the question remained unanswered, until now. Last week, a team of researchers were able to confirm that yes, the 1-meter-long European eel people knew from their local river really did come from a subtropical sea up to 10,000 kilometers away. This team had something history's biggest thinkers didn't: cool tech. Pop-up satellite archival tags are a relatively new type of tracking device that allows scientists to map the movements of marine creatures in a way that simply wasn't possible before. The tags record where the animals travel, how fast they move, and even how deep they dive. Then, the tags detach and float to the surface where they can transmit data back into the hands of eager scientists. The European eel's migration is impressive, but they are still shrouded in mystery. All the eels on the mainland come from the same spawning place, yes, even the eels in backyard ponds, which can slither along land to the sea after only a little rain. Eels can even climb up enormous dam walls. But how do they know where to go? How do they decide when? Australia, too, has its own illustrious eels. They generally keep to themselves, so much so that most of us wouldn't even know they're there. But with all this rain and flooding, there's a chance you might stumble across one soon. So I thought this was a good time to share 5 things you might not know about eels, including in Australia. We have our own marvelous migration story in Australia. While not quite as long as the European eel's journey, Australia's short-finned eels undertake a massive migration. In research published last year, researchers from the Arthur Rylah Institute and Gunditj Meering Traditional Owner Aboriginal Corporation used satellite tracking tags to map the path of 16 eels from Port Phillip Bay off Melbourne to the Coral Sea outside the Great Barrier Reef. Some travelled almost 3,000 kilometres in just 5 months. It's an arduous journey. The tags showed some eels dive to depths of almost 1,000 meters below the ocean's surface, taking advantage of currents and dodging predators. Not all were successful though. At least 5 of the tracked eels were eaten by sharks or whales. Eels are obstacle course masters. When you stop to think about it, there are more than a few obstacles between inland fresh waters and the ocean. Many of the swamps and wetlands that would traditionally have offered safe passage have been filled in, replaced by farms, dams, and cities. And yet, eels find a way. One key feature is their ability to breathe through their skin, meaning even the shallowest drain or puddle-soaked lawn is enough water for them to move through. According to urban legends, eels have been seen slithering through urban gutters, sports ovals, or over university campus fountains, following ancient pathways back out to sea. Eels are expert transformers. Imagine if you had to go through puberty 4 or 5 times, with each bodily change more dramatic than the last. Then you'd have a pretty good understanding of what it's like to be an eel. Migrating eels have to go from being a saltwater fish to a freshwater fish and back again, which means they have incredible life cycles. They start out as tiny larvae out in the ocean in the Sargasso or Coral Sea where they spawn, before morphing into translucent glass eels. After that, they shapeshift into darker elvers at about 1 year old as they make their way back to fresh water, where they eventually mature into the adult eels that live in our rives, lakes, and dams. When the time comes, they make their final transformation into lean, mean, migrating machines, known as silver eels. Their eyes grow larger and their heads becomes pointed and streamlined. They also stop eating, as their stomachs shrink to make way for bigger gonads, all the better to spawn with. Sigmund Freud was an eel fan, too. Speaking of gonads, Sigmund Freud, yes, that Freud, spent the early years of his research career trying to understand the sexual anatomy of eels. Unfortunately for Freud, and the eels, the only way to tell if an eel is male or female is to dissect it to observe its internal reproductive organs. Despite performing hundreds of dissections, Freud rarely found male eels. Turns out, this is because eels don't develop reproductive parts until later in life, usually not until they're at least 10 years old. Eels can live very long lives. Yes, these long fish have long lives, with some eels living to be more than 50 years old. One man in Sweden claimed his backyard eel lived to 155, while another eel reportedly lived to 85 in a Swedish aquarium. Eels spend the first few years of life getting from their spawning grounds back to fresh water, and the last few making the return journey out to sea. They only make this spawning once, after that, they die. Why is this kind of research important? There's still so much we don't understand about eels around the world. But satellite research such as that published this week takes us a step closer to pulling all the pieces together. This has real implications for how we look after eel populations. The European eel, Anguilla anguilla, is critically endangered, with the species experiencing declines of up to 95% in the last 50 years. We don't really know how well Australian eels are tracking. If we understand where animals breed and how they get there, it means we can find ways to help, rather than hinder their journey, and protect the places that are important. Nature is full of surprises, and some of its creatures are so bizarre and unique that they seem like they belong in a science fiction movie rather than on Earth. These creatures demonstrate just how varied and imaginative evolution can be, adapting over millennia to thrive in their specific environments. Each one, with its unusual features and behaviors, is a testament to the complexity and wonder of nature. An adventure story centered around the mata turtle. Set in the lush Amazon rainforest, the story could weave in elements of local myths and the importance of biodiversity. These stories can be adapted into various formats such as books, films, or educational series, offering both entertainment and insights into the lives of some of the most unusual creatures on Earth. Each story not only highlights the uniqueness of these animals but also emphasizes the importance of conservation efforts to protect them. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel.